no one's seeing me anyways. Whatever. Hello! So, my name is Chanel, and my pronouns are they, them, and theirs. I'm knitting, spinning, designing, making a lot of stuff in New Jersey, close to NYC, while I'm figuring out my life and what to do with my physics degree. So on social media, you can find me as pipernell, Pipernell. Basically, Instagram, Ravelry. I'm on Patreon. I'm also on Facebook with a Facebook page that I'm trying to get more content on. And I also have a Ravelry group for this podcast, which is, by the way, the Pipernell podcast. And that's also the name of the Ravelry group. And this is episode 27. I called this episode Rhinebeck Goals because that's really what I want to focus on this episode. It's kind of funny how knitters plan so far ahead. I know people who have started Christmas knitting. I'm not there, but I am planning for Rhinebeck already, which I guess is in November, so that's not too far from Christmas. Anyway, so overview of what I got today. We have news, some knitting stories of mine. We got commission knitting, just a little bit. On my radar, just a little bit, and then wrap up. So it's more of a compact episode. I can't make any guarantees on length. It's probably going to be some more in-depth discussion within the fewer sections. So let's get right to it. So news. I am currently testing my Garden State hat, which I showed last time. Last episode, I announced the test. I'm running it through the free pattern testers group and just trying out that format. So far, for all of my test knits, I've done a different format, which, you know, as a new designer, I'm just trying as many things as I can, and maybe eventually I'll settle into a preferred testing method. So far, I've done a Facebook group. I've done just email threads. This is my first time doing a Ravelry thread. Yeah, and I'll just see how they compare. Maybe someday I'll do a comparison little discussion. And so I'm aiming for that hat pattern to be released end of July, beginning of August. Yeah. And then next I have is I will indeed be teaching the sock class, 2 at a time socks, toe up, at Frame and Fiber, which is a combination framing and yarn shop in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, owned by Paige Miller, who's Paige the Framer on all the social medias. She's a super lovely person. You should totally just connect with her, get to know her. I can't wait to meet her in person. It's going to be really fun. And yeah, so enough people signed up for the minimum class size, and so now we just see how many people are going to sign up, because the class is definitely happening. I'm so excited. It's this Sunday. But, by the way, today is Monday, July 10th. Yeah. And next, I am going to be doing the Pancake and Lulu giveaway drawing. So, I'm going to be doing that live on camera, so just going to cut right here. Okay, it is time to do the drawing for the Pancake and Lulu giveaway. Whoops. Do not click to the forums. Click to the forums, click to the Ravelry group, and Pancake and Lulu Ply giveaway. I've already locked the thread. I have posts 2 to 9. Okay, so new tab, random.org. What's this fuss about true randomness? I don't really care at the moment. I'm just going to set my minimum from 2 to 9. Generate 7! Alright, who is number 7? Slow motion accident. So you get one of these stitch markers. So once you see this video, please message me on Ravelry or Instagram or any way to reach me. You know how to reach me, hopefully. And tell me your choice of stitch marker. I'm also going to earburn you in the Ravelry thread. So look out for that. Congratulations. Okay, so now we're back from that. That was the June Patreon giveaway. Because of my Patreon patrons, the people who've pledged to me on Patreon, and giving me a little, just, you know, a little extra funding every month. I am able to do these giveaways, so if you like that and you appreciate these giveaways, please consider becoming a patron and just helping me out with, you know, little extras for a podcast like this, and to support my art and my craft and me as a person. So yeah, if you have the means, please consider becoming a Patreon patron. And stay tuned for the end of the episode when I will talk about the July giveaway, since it is now July. That was the June giveaway I drew after June ended. I think I'm going to do the same for July. Okay, that was it for news. On to knitting stories. I have 2 FOs, actually. 1 FO that you've never seen before. But let me start with the FO that you have seen. So I finished my flat socks. They were mostly finished, mofos, last episode. And here they are. I really like the pattern on them a lot. The yarn is Regia, Arnie, and Carlos design line. I was looking up the colorway number. It's just a number. It doesn't have any special names or anything. It might have something online, but it's this really nice, like, red, white, blue, little bit of brown and natural colors in there. And I actually did finish them on July 4th, which is the United States Independence Day. You also have Bastille Day coming up. You also, Canada Day was a couple of days before the 4th. So I actually don't know the exact date. Typical American, not knowing too much about Canada. I swear, I'm sorry, Canadian friends. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Okay, and Bastille Day is also coming up on the 14th, which is a French holiday, and their colors are also red, white, and blue. A lot of countries are. It's not like we're anything special. So I think that this just suits the month of July a lot, besides the fact that it's a knitted, very warm sock. The needles that I used on it are Chaogu red lace in the US 1 or 2.25 millimeter size, which is my usual sock needle. Even though I use my usual sock needle, this was far from my usual sock technique, because you'll see there's a seam up the side of the socks. And that's because the pattern I used was called Green Leaves of Summer in a book that's all about knitting your socks on straight by Alice Curtis. I did a book review on that a couple of episodes, so check that out. But knitting the socks on, well, I could have knit them on straight needles. I don't actually have straight needles in US 1, so I just used my normal sock needles, but instead of knitting in the round, I just knit back and forth. And it produced a sock that, you know, fits pretty well. I got a question from a viewer about the fit of the socks, so I thought now that they're finished, it'd be a good time to talk about that. Let me put them on, and you can see they fit me just right. They are a heel flap and gusset construction. Let me scoot back a bit, and that's easier for my hip too. So they're heel flap and gusset construction for the heel. The toe is a star toe, so what happens is you actually decrease at 4 points, like a hat, and it comes together in a point, and you actually just have a few stitches you draw your thread through, and you finish it up like, you cinch it up like a hat, which is a little weird. And honestly, the fit of this toe, I'm not the biggest fan of. It pinches, well, because it pinches in at a single point, it really depends on where you put the sock on, or if I put the sock on just a little bit off, I try to wiggle the point. I try to wiggle the point of the toe to between my big and my middle toe. My middle toe is about as long as my big toe is, not that you needed to know that. But basically, the tallest part of my foot, that's where I want it to cinch. If it's any bit off to the side, then it's just like pinches on my foot weirdly. But once I put it on, it really doesn't look that bad. And I think it's a pretty attractive toe. And the fact that you don't have to Kitchener the toe might be a plus for some people. Besides that, let's see, let me put on both of them. So, heel, toe, Sizing was pretty easy to do. Normally when I'm doing cuff down socks, I start the toe about 2 inches before my desired length, and I did the same thing for these socks as the pattern recommended, and they work. So knitting them back and forth and then seaming them up the side doesn't affect the length of the sock and what you're used to, unless your row gauge back and forth is significantly different from your row gauge in the round, which some people's might be, because some people's purl gauge, because when you're knitting back and forth in stockinette, you have to knit and then purl, knit and then purl, instead of just knit, 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 knit. And if someone's purl gauge is really different than their stockinette flat, their row gauge knitting back and forth might be different from their row gauge knitting in the round. So I would just, if it's your first time trying this sock construction, I guess just really pay attention to fit and see if that is true for you. So now I have both of them on. You were seeing my left foot, and this is my right foot. And good thing you can't see any lower on the camera, because I am indeed wearing a dress. I really like the way the heel goes. It was a slip stitch heel. Slip stitch, like slip one, knit one, slip one, knit one. And I guess the last feature I'll talk about with these socks is the seam. So the seam is up the inside of the foot, or outside if I switch these socks around. The socks are written differently for left and right socks so that the seam is mirrored. I don't think it actually matters where you wear the seam, because you don't even feel it, which is surprising. And I even did the seam wrong. So what happened with the seam was that you were supposed to hold the two sides of the sock, wrong sides together, and then going from the outside, use a crochet hook and join it basically with a chain, creating a ridge on the outside of the sock. I did it wrong. I don't know, for some reason I'm used to seaming things with the wrong sides out. So I held the right sides together and then seamed it that way. And that meant that I had a ridge on the inside, which creates a very different look. Like this ridge is supposed to be on the outside of the sock, and it's a fairly nice looking decorative feature. I like it. But I also like the look of the seam being on the inside, and you have this, it's not a ridge, but a furrow instead. And when you put it on, you don't feel anything at all. Or maybe it's because, or maybe I just have less sensitive skin. I don't know. But overall, I am really happy with the fit of these socks, and I think the instructions were really clear for giving a well-fitting sock. So I would really recommend this pattern, Green Leaves of Summer. I don't think it's available outside of the book, so you might have to just buy the book. I would recommend the book too. And that's it for the flat socks. So next is something that I hadn't even cast on last episode. So between last episode and this episode, I cast on and bound off, finished, blocked everything on this project. So let me get it. It's in fact a shawl. If you notice, I didn't really have a shawl project on the needles last time, and I guess that bugged some part of my brain. I was definitely in a crafting slump last time, and for various reasons that craft slump might have ended. And one of the reasons might have been I didn't have a shawl on the needles, and now I do, and it's off my needles, but I'm going to start another shawl pretty soon. And I think I just need a shawl going at all times. So here it is. This is a mostly unnamed shawl pattern that I actually designed. I mostly improvised the design as I went, but then enough people were commenting on it and complimenting me that I was like, maybe this would do well enough as a pattern. So for now, I'm calling this the alpaca shawl. I do have, if anyone has suggestions for this shawl, I have one suggestion for spinnaker, which is a type of sail that is shaped kind of like this shawl. And, ooh, I really like it worn this way. Yeah, so let me stand up. This is just, I'm draping the points over my shoulders. And this is, I called it the alpaca shawl because the yarn is indeed 100% alpaca. It is getting really warm on, so I can't keep it on. The yarn is Knit Picks Andean Treasure, which is 100% baby alpaca. I have the labels here. I don't see this yarn on the Knit Picks website anymore. I don't know if it was a seasonal thing. They might bring it back. It doesn't say it's discontinued on Ravelry, so I'm thinking maybe they'll bring it back during the colder months. And the color, I used 4 different colors on this shawl. So this grayish off-white is Finley Heather. This teal is Oasis. And this blue is Sapphire. And this gray that I finished with is Mystery Heather. And I actually have a sweater's quantity of Mystery Heather also given to me by the same friend who gave me the one-off balls of these colors, which I thought went together really well, so I started this shawl. If anyone has any suggestions for a sweater pattern that would be good for 100% alpaca, please let me know. I'm just really curious, and I don't know what to consider when choosing a sweater pattern for this particular fiber. I know that alpaca grows, so I knew it was going to be good for a shawl. So let me talk a bit about the shawl construction, since I am going to be writing this up into a design. So you start at the point. This is an asymmetrical triangle, and this point is like a sharper angle than this point over here. It just turned out that way, but with blocking, and if this edge was with a stretchy bind off at this edge and more blocking, you could probably get this point longer and more, and matching this one better. I didn't, and I really don't mind. So you start at this point and you increase in the center of the piece. So that is what creates this chevron effect, which is what I started out which was the starting idea for this project. And then I just started randomly striping in different colors. And the stripes that you see are all what I'm calling kind of embossed stripes. So you have 2 rows of stockinette followed by 2 rows of garter to create a garter ridge. And then stockinette and garter ridge, stockinette. And because the garter ridge stands out, it's really, and if you do it in a contrasting color, it creates this embossed effect for the contrasting color. So once I got sick of that, really, once I used up these 2 colors, then I was like, well, I don't want this kite-shaped thing as the shawl. I want this to be a triangle. So I did this solid blue section in garter stitch and short rows to shape it from this kite shape that you see here into the asymmetrical triangle that you see. And then once it was shaped into a triangle, then you were just knitting back and forth along the entire width of the shawl, and I stuck in more embossed stripes, and then I ended actually with a 1x1 rib. If I had more yarn, I would do a deeper 1x1 ribbing. So basically, maybe as you can tell from the way I talked about this shawl, I was not really caring about where the color changes were, or when I ran out of particular yarn, or so on. So my intention behind this shawl and writing up this pattern is not for you to make this exact shawl. You can use 4 colors of the same yarn, but I also want this shawl to work with scraps. So I'm going to be doing a second sample of this with some DK and worsted weight scraps that I have, This yarn is sport weight, but it feels pretty much like a heavy sport. It's on the heavier side of sport weight. It could be a DK or even a worsted weight yarn, just from the yardage. The Indian Treasure is 110 yards to 50 grams. If you multiply by 2, that's 220 yards to 100 grams, which is almost the same as a worsted weight skein. So I think it is definitely on the heavier side of sport weight. But yeah, it can be, I intend for the shawl to be knit in any weight yarn, any yardage, and really any number of colors if you want to do a scrappy shawl. So yeah, keep an eye out for this. The one suggestion I have for this shawl so far is spinnaker. If anyone has any other suggestions, please comment below, comment in the Ravelry group, or message me or anything. I really am pretty responsive on all forms of communication. So let me just try wearing it again. So I've been trying to wear it like a kerchief, and I think it looks pretty good this way. I think that's pretty cool. I like how the tail just kind of sticks out. Tuck this end underneath, because that's not such a showy piece. And you have an asymmetrical kerchief. I think that looks pretty cool. I had it draped across my front earlier, which is also pretty cool. Though, I mean, it looks like a great poncho now. I can't really see this being practical in real life. I think it's really just better for modeling a shawl. And then if you drape it over your back like a traditional shawl, it is definitely asymmetrical. I think it brings out the two different points very well. And yeah, if I had a shawl pin, I would pin it like this or something. Or maybe like this. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be a very versatile shawl. And I'm pretty happy with both the design and the product. Oh, this thing is warm. So the next knitting story I have, it finally touches on the title of this episode, which is my mask cardi. It is a cardigan that a cabled cardigan that I'm doing. This is what I have so far. The pattern is Migration by Stacy Gerbman, and I am using Bartlett Yarns 2-ply in the colorway Sandstone, which is this reddish brown that's really nice. And I really like this color on me, and I can't wait to have the finished sweater. In terms of, well, yes, so I really am excited for the product of this project. I'm not super into the process so far, or I have to be in a particular mood to be knitting on this project. So I've explained the idea behind this cardigan project before in previous episodes, so I'm not going to go over that again, but I wanted to go over how it is knitting this yarn and this pattern. It's not the pattern at all. The pattern is really well written. It's very clear. The charts are all well laid out, and I have no questions, about like what to do. Even swatching was easy. They gave instructions for like, okay, you should swatch this chart and this chart to see if your gauge matches. And I did actually swatch. I don't usually swatch, but I wanted the sweater to fit. It's not going to be a fitted sweater. It's definitely going to be an oversized sweater, but I didn't want it to be too oversized. So I did care about the size of this. This is, so far, is about seven repeats of the cable pattern. So I've done quite a lot of knitting on this, and the yarn is more on the rustic side. So if you see, if it will focus, it's a pretty woolly yarn. It's a 2-ply, as you might guess from the name. And when you're knitting with it, it's definitely pretty sticky. I don't think this yarn has lanolin in it. It's just coarser. And it sticks to itself while you're working with it. So even though I'm using metal needles, this is basically probably the fastest that I'm going to get with these needles. I can't imagine knitting with wooden needles in this yarn. That would be nothing would move. There could just be so much friction. And so while I'm knitting, I actually noticed my fingers and sometimes even my arms getting a little tired because I do have to exert myself to create each stitch and pull the yarn against itself. That's not a bad thing. It actually is, I get into quite a groove if I'm in the right mood for knitting on this project and I want the feel of something really rustic and coarse in my hands. I'm not worried at all about how this sweater will wear. The fabric that it's creating is really nice, and I've owned sweaters scratchier than this. This is not scratchy. It just likes to stick to itself while you're working with it. So I think this is going to be a really durable, long-lasting sweater. And the reason this goes under Rhinebeck goals is because I do want to finish this sweater for Rhinebeck. I'm going to call this my Rhinebeck sweater. I mean, I could call my Cosette cardigan my Rhinebeck sweater and just be done with it and say I'm already done. But this has better timing, and I think by the time it's Rhinebeck, it will be cold enough for me to wear this sweater appropriately. So I'm just really excited. I am actually really enjoying this project so far. I am just... I'm not complaining. And I hope that my words aren't too critical of it. It really is one of my favorite, like, personal projects right now. So that was it for my mask cardi. And the last knitting story I have is actually a UFO. This is a project that I haven't shown in a while, but it goes under my Rhinebeck goals because it is the piano scarf. I really have not shown this in a while. So this is what I have so far. Back when the last time I picked this up was almost a year ago, like August or September. And I want to finish this before Rhinebeck too, because the pattern for this is the Piano No. 2 by Nathan Taylor, who is the sockmatician, and he is going to be teaching at Rhinebeck. So I want to finish this before Rhinebeck so that I can bring it to Rhinebeck, be wearing it, and show it to him and take a picture with him and stuff. I think it would just be really cool to be able to bring in a FO to a designer. And speaking as a designer who's felt that before, I would love a picture with both him and this scarf in it. And it just happens to match the mask cardi pretty well, so I might even be able to wear it as an outfit. Unless it's like freakishly warm for the season when Rhinebeck comes around, then I will be like dying of and suffocating in my own knits. But this is, yeah, so this is going to be really warm because if you can't tell, it is double knit. It is two-sided. This side is the orange or orangey red on gray, and this side is the gray on orangey red. The yarn that I'm using is Cascade Heritage in 2 different color families. Wave, and Cascade Heritage Wave is like this slow gradient. As you can see, this goes from more red to more yellows, and it's a slow self-striping color. It is the colorway Solar, and the solid dark gray is Charcoal. I forget where this Progress Keeper is from, as in like why I put it there. I think that was between episodes at some point, and I need to move it. So I am going to be moving it right now to here. And smack me if it has not moved next episode. Or, you know what? I won't record until this Progress Keeper is quite a ways below what I have done. Because I really do need to get working on this project. The needles that I'm using for this are ChiaoGu's, they're bamboo. So not my usual ChiaoGu metal needles in the size 3 or 3.25 millimeters. And I think it's really suitable for this yarn because you don't want something too slippery for double knitting. Just because there are a lot of stitches, and if you drop something, it might be a little bit of a nightmare. So, I'm just happy with this project. I don't know why I haven't had the motivation to work on it. I think it's been a while. A lot of shit has happened since I last picked up this project, and I think it'd be good to get more stitches on it and get some more good memories in it, and really show how I've worked past some of the shit in the past year. So yeah, okay. That is it for knitting stories. For commissions, the next section is commissions. So for commissions, I'm not going to update you on the helicase scarf this time. It's growing, but I'm still on the same section and the same chart. So it's really just more of what you... It's longer, but it's more of what you've already seen, so there's nothing new to report there. I do have a new whip, and I'm still kind of in a slump and procrastinating on some commission projects because none of these really have a deadline. I've been really fortunate to have very flexible people commission me for knits, and a lot of them are my friends, so that's probably why they're being so flexible and nice, and if they weren't my friends, they would probably be on my ass more. So this new whip is actually, well, I don't know the person too well. But this actually is my first locally commissioned project, which I think is a good step for me as a knitter for hire, because it's a foot in the door. As soon as I get this finished and out into the world, and it's in my community, my local geographic community, then that way of advertising myself through word of mouth will be much stronger, and I'll pretty much have a reference. So this is what I have so far. It is going to be a baby blanket. And the pattern I'm using is called Bounce by Tin Can Knits. You can't really see much of the fifth color right now, so let me go through the colors in order. Bounce is written for kind of a gradient set with gradient set of contrasting color CC with a contrasting main color, which in all of the samples that I really liked is white. I've seen some done in black and that creates this really nice stained glass effect, but I think that for the colorways for my client, she wanted a blue to green gradient. The white works really well, and it creates this, it really looks like waves in the sea or on a lake. So this yarn is Drops Muscat. I don't know how to pronounce it. It is 100% mercerized cotton, so it's slicker feeling than some cotton yarns. And yeah, I really don't know how to pronounce this. Muskat. It's from Drops. This is my first time working with a Drops yarn, because in the States, it's harder to get. I actually got this from Nordic Mart. I'll talk about my experience a little later. But Nordic Mart is, as I found out from my friend Kyla at the Arctos Knits podcast, is pretty much the main distributor of Drops yarn stateside. And I'm so glad that she helped me find this website, because they have all of the Drops yarn, and they I can finally try their sock yarn, Drops Fable, because I just want to try all the sock yarns, especially the commercial sock yarns, since they're more budget friendly. And the thing about Drops is that their yarn's very affordable. I think each ball of this was about $2, or maybe even less, or somewhere around the ballpark of $2 each. So I was able to get a bunch of them for enough for the entire blanket set. So I was able to get 5 colors, and because they come in small balls, I could get the quantities that I wanted without buying too much excess. So anyway, back to the blanket. It is a 6-color project, 1 main color and 5 contrasting colors. I don't remember the colorway names off the top of my head, but you can see how they kind of can form a gradient set here. I've only started about a row of this cobalt blue at the end. I think this is just called blue. This is denim blue. It's a darker gray blue. This is sky blue. It could be sky blue or ice blue, I'm not sure. And these are all numbered on the Nordic Mart site, and also linked in my project page, so you can get the exact colorway names. This is, I think it's mint green. It's a nice blue-green. And then you have, I can't remember it, apple green. It's a bright yellowish green. And I think these 5 colorways are just a nice set. The client and I picked this out, so I'm not just tooting my own horn with my color choices. And then the white is actually kind of a warmish cream off-white that contrasts really nicely with all the colors. So the pattern is pretty simple. This is all the same repeat over and over. And the pattern calls for 16 repeats. I think I'm going to stick with that number. And because I have 5 colors, 5 contrasting colors, and I'm changing for each section, I'm going to do 1 to 5, 1 to 5, 1 to 5 again. So that makes 15 repeats. And then I'm going to do this apple green again. And that would begin and end the blanket with the same color, and I think that'd be a nice effect. So this yarn I'm working with ChiaoGoo, my usual ChiaoGoo metal needles. This is the knit lace line in US 5 or 3.75 millimeters. It's been pretty slippery, actually. So I said mercerized cotton. I'm not really sure what the term mercerized means. All I know is on my end, it makes the thread more slick and slippery. It's making a really nice fabric so far. It also has more of a sheen than non-mercerized cotton. But working with metal needles and a slippery yarn, it's been just a little bit scary at times. I haven't dropped any stitches. This won't be a very hard pattern to fix dropped stitches on. It's just, a little bit nerve-wracking. Anyway, so I mentioned that this blanket will have a matching sweater. I don't yet have a concrete plan for which sweater pattern I'll be using, but I'm thinking it's definitely going to be a cardigan. I got wooden buttons for the cardigan that will match, that goes with all of the colors. I'm going to use either, let's see, the denim blue or the teal for the main color of the cardigan. I don't want to use the white just because it's white. It's a baby cardigan. They're gonna like bleh all over it. And well, the baby's a boy. If you can't tell by the obnoxiously gendered blue colors. Whatever. There's no such thing as gender in colors. The client did say that she's not terribly attached to traditionally gendered colors, and she does really like the green. So I'm still deciding between the green or the denim blue, and I got an extra ball of each because they could be the main color for the cardigan, and I'll need more. But whatever I decide to be the main color for the cardigan, the rest is going to have stripes of the rest of the contrast colors to match this cardigan. So I'm thinking like 1 on the cuffs, and then like maybe 2 or 3 repeats on the body. And I'm making the cardigan a little bit bigger for a 3-month-old instead of a newborn, because that's what she requested, so that will give me more room to play with the colors. But I think that's all I have to say about the yarn and the project itself. Let me talk a little bit about buying from Nordic Mart. So let me first clean this up. So I have nothing but positive things to say about buying from Nordic Mart. First, their website was a breeze to use. It could be a little bit more organized, but whatever. But they have a great selection of yarn, especially drops yarn. If you're looking to try drops yarn and you're in the States, you haven't been able to find it anywhere, go to Nordic Mart. They have drops yarn, which is known for its affordability and its quality. I have nothing negative to say about this yarn. It looks like it will hold up really well. I haven't tried washing it, but I don't think that it will bleed. I mean, I'm working with super saturated colors. Nothing's coming off of my hands. And it just feels really nice. I haven't gotten any knots in the yarn so far. And it was really affordable. So, and then the shipping was pretty fast too. They offer priority shipping. It didn't seem like there was a deal like spend $50 or $75 or more and get free shipping. But whatever shipping you get, it was very reasonably priced. I think I paid like $6 shipping for my entire lot, which came in this giant bag. And it was priority shipping, so it was really fast. So yeah, definitely would highly recommend nordicmart.com. So that's it for commissions. Let me clean up a bit. It's time for On My Radar. So on my radar this time is actually some local artists to me. It's a little bit different from what I usually talk about in the On My Radar section, but I figure I've been plugging into just my local community lately. I'm trying to get more into the music scene, and it's getting there. But really, with my current job at the Creativity Caravan, the art studio I work at, it's made a lot of connections to like just cool, interesting makers all around me. And so I guess I'll start off with the earrings that I'm wearing right now. Actually, I have the 10. I just got these yesterday at a local music festival. The company, her company is Daisy's Chain, and she made these. She made the chain links and then put them together. So basically, she makes chainmail. And she oxidized these earrings herself using electricity, and basically you apply a voltage and the metal oxidizes and changes color. It's basically the coating of the metal is rusting. That's what oxidation basically oxidation basically is. But these are really cool, and I'm wearing them now. And they're made of titanium, which is actually a very hypoallergenic metal. So they won't irritate my ears. My ears can be slightly sensitive. So that's been a cool artist I've been getting to know. I saw her before yesterday at the music festival. I saw her at just kind of a local night market type of mini market, and there I got to talk to her more. This was a bigger event. So the next artist I want to talk about is an artist called Jennifer Levine, and she's currently in residence at the art studio I work at. And what she does is, well, she does a variety of things. She's done murals, she's done portraits. What she does is she has very intuitive, free lines of drawing. So this is a soul portrait that she drew of me. And a soul portrait, the way she defines it, is basically an intuitive, free-flow portrait of what's inside a person, of their personality, of their kind of true nature. And she does it on the spot. This took her about a minute to draw. I was sitting in front of her. This is at the same night market that I met the woman behind Daisy's Chains, Heidi. And just even the conversation with her was really interesting. I've been reflecting a lot on, kind of who I really am, what I want to do with my life, and trying to dig myself out of that thought that I don't have to do any one thing with my life. I don't have to marry myself to like one career or anything, especially with my generation and with the changing world that we live in. But the way she read me, because this is really her impression of you, she read me so well. She said a lot of things that I didn't quite believe. She said that I was grounded, I was confident, and yeah, my confidence has improved a lot in recent years. But one thing she said to me that really struck me was, she was like, "It's not your first time here." And by that, she meant that I had been here before, on this earth in a previous life. I'm not super into reincarnation. I don't fully believe it. It just doesn't mesh well with my scientific background and my understanding of the universe. I'm a little skeptical of it. But again, I don't have concrete proof that disproves it. And it's a belief that I hold more as faith, and part of my spirituality than any, body of knowledge that I have. And I think it makes a lot of sense. She said that I was an old soul. And that, in the context of reincarnation, is a way that I hadn't thought about old soul before. Like, before I had always thought about old soul as old, an older person's soul in a younger body. There is that mismatch. But old soul, when you factor in reincarnation, then takes on this additional meaning of, this is a soul that's been here, that's been recycled, that's been reincarnated into a new body, and it's bringing all of those previous experiences into this new body. And I don't know, it's just a very positive, empowering thought for me, especially as someone who struggles with low self-esteem and low self-worth, that I am worth being here multiple times, and some part of me, deserves to be here. And even if there is a higher power, they've decided that I am good enough, to put here multiple times. So it was a really moving conversation. And again, this was my soul portrait. And then this was like just the words that she thought of as she was talking to me after she had finished the portrait. What was interesting about this portrait is that she drew my face pretty quickly, and then got most of my body done, had drawn my hand here. I had my hand on my knee like that. And then she erased my face and then redrew me with this different expression. I have one eye open, one eye closed. Before, I had two eyes open. So I'm not really sure what that means. Maybe like her first impression of me was a little off, and something as you sit with me, your impression of me changes or something. I don't know. It's a really interesting concept, and I actually had her do it again. So, this second soul portrait of me done by her was done in more time, so I think it probably is a more, I guess, accurate depiction of me, in not just like my look, but the impression that you get of me. Because this was a less crowded event. She had set up a booth outside in town, and there wasn't a line, so people could come up one by one and really get time with her, and she would talk to you and really be able to get her full intuitive impression of you and your personality in one go. And so I look a lot calmer in this one. I have both my eyes closed, and I really like the way she drew me as kind of a block. It does feel very grounded, and I told her while I was talking to her, it's like, last time you said I was really grounded, but I have anxiety. And she said something that also really affected me. She said, you may have anxiety, that means that you have anxious moments, but that doesn't mean that you're an anxious person. Because she told me, by now, a couple of different people have told me I'm a pretty calming person to be around. It's just that certain environments, trigger my anxiety and make me not such a calm person and not such a calming person to be around. But I definitely noticed myself in social situations, I try to actively be a source of calm. So, I don't know, maybe that also has something to do with my anxiety, and that anxiety is when that fails and I freak out. So yeah, that's Soul Portraits by Jennifer Levine, so you should check her website out. She's also really active in the artistic community around here. And it's just it's so great that these are all women that I've been connecting with as mentor figures and friends. They're older than I am, they have more experience, so it's good in a time where I don't have a lot of direction. So the last artist I want to talk about is Claire from Montclair Made, and she makes these bags. She does a lot of cool embroidery. So she hand embroidered this word stuff on this bag, and I think I'm going to use this as a notions bag. So yeah, I've been talking to her a lot. She makes plarn too. She's going to do a workshop at the studio I work at. So yeah, I'm just really glad to be in this community and connecting with cool, interesting people that are helping me grow. And that's what's on my radar. People and local artists and lovely, lovely people. So that brings me to wrap up. So as my job situation continues to change, I might have jumped the gun a little bit last time by saying that I was working for Java Love when I was really in training or still in the hiring process. Things didn't work out. I'm still looking for a second job to supplement my income. So I don't know when I'll be able to record next or when I feel like recording next. This one I kind of sat down and I was like, yeah, I feel like recording. I wrote up the show notes and I was like, yeah, I do have enough for an episode. And I really just, whenever I check in with myself and feel like I have enough for an episode, then I try to record pretty quickly. So that's it for this episode. Couple of last housekeeping items and administrative things before I go. So I'm going to be drawing for the Spindle Along on July 16th, my birthday, just because I feel like giving something away on my birthday. It is not the end of the Spindle Along, it's just a kind of pop-up prize. And I have it right in front of me. I got two little thingies from a maker called Crafty Housewife Yarns. She's in Tennessee. And I got these two mini bats from her. If you'll excuse the crinkling, I can take it out. Oh, it's so soft. Look at it! Look, it's squishy. It's so squishy. It is lovely. It has pastels everywhere. This one is Barbie and the Rockers. Oh, Barbie and the Rockers, sorry. I was like, what? This is Barbie and the Rockers. It has merino, bamboo, silk, cashmere, and angelica. Angelica! It is a 1 ounce mini art bat. It's just so soft. I'm so jealous of whoever gets to win this. And you get the second mini bat too, which is in Sea Creature. The colorway is called Sea Creature, and it is also merino, bamboo, silk, and angelica, and also 1 ounce. So the mid, I guess we'll call it the mid spin along winner will win these two mini bats. And they also came with these Barbie trading cards, which I am going to keep. Those are cool. No, maybe I'll give you a couple, but because they are trading cards, they are meant to be traded. And here's her business card. Her name's Erin, but on Crafty Housewife Yarns. You should definitely check her stuff out. She makes art bats. She also sells her hand spun yarn. Her card shows all of her contact info, and I'll also put this in the show notes. So that is going to be the pop-up prize. She also threw in a couple of fun Rolags, which I'll be holding on to because these are so pretty. Look at those. I'm betting these are also similar fibers. But yeah. And last thing, for the July Patreon giveaway, I have a minute left, so I need to get going. So, a July Patreon giveaway, I have 4 balls of Drops Fable yarn. So you'll be able to choose 2 of them. You can choose any pair, any 2 of these 4 for the July giveaway, and I will be starting a thread and posting some sort of question in the July giveaway thread when that happens. So that's all I have for you, and thank you so much for watching. If you are a new viewer, thanks for checking me out. If you're an old viewer, thanks so much for your continuing support. Find me on all of the social medias as pipernell. This was episode 27 of the Pipernell podcast, and I will see you again when I see you. Bye. Love you.